Hey everyone, Dale here, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the all-new Kia Sportage and which specification offers you the best value for money. This is based around my experience and expertise as a forecast manager, whereby I used to advise manufacturers on the best specification to include in their vehicle and how much I thought that specification was going to be worth over the next 5 years. It was done for things like finance agreements and PCP so that they could understand their financial exposure to things like that. If you don't have time to watch this video, there is a specification calculator below. You can pick any vehicle you like, from an Audi A3 to a 1 Series to a Porsche Panamera or a Bentley, whatever it happens to be. You pick a vehicle, you pick the specification you're interested in, and it will tell you how much that specification is going to be worth over the next 5 years. So you know whether you should tick the box effectively for that option if you're buying a brand new car, or let's say there's a dealer on a website that's saying this came with £16,000 worth of additional options. In reality, how much are those options really worth? And are you really being overcharged for the vehicle based on what the dealer thinks those options are worth, rather than someone like me who used to work for a valuation company? So what we're going to do is, you're going to see my screen. We're going to do some picture-in-picture. There are just a couple of rules around what I'm going to show you here today. The values I'm going to show you are based on a 3-year value. So it's a typical finance agreement here in the UK. It's not as if you buy the car today and then you sell it in a week's time, and how much are you going to get back for your options that you paid for and the vehicle, obviously. It's going to be, you buy it today, you sell it in 3 years' time. If you spent £3,000 to jump up from one specification to another one, how much of that £3,000 extra are you actually going to get back? So that's one of the rules. The other one is that the specification, the price of specification, is personal choice. Well, I'm going to look at this a lot differently to the way you are, because I used to work for a valuation service. So if you think you want to pay more money because there's a different style of alloy, a different size of alloy wheel, you're going to pay accordingly. But from a valuation point of view, we don't apply values to things that you think we might apply them to, and I'll explain that as I go through the video and you see what's on my screen in a second. The other thing is, I know that this is not all the specification. I can click a button that says view all specification, but Kia have to just highlight on their website to try and entice you to buy that vehicle or go through the ordering process with maybe 10 items that showcase the different levels of specification. So that's what we're going to go through. So just to reiterate, we're effectively going to go through each of the Kia specifications, and I'm going to tell you whether it's worth it or not. If Kia charge you £10,000 to jump up to a various specification, what does that specification include, and does it include £10,000 worth of spec or not? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to record my screen. You're going to see exactly what I'm going to see right now. You can see there on the left hand side I've got the specification of the particular vehicles we're going to look at, and on the right hand side it is an image that Kia has provided for that particular spec. If I just scroll down just to explain some of the numbers, the smaller numbers are my 3-year residual value effectively. The big number in orange there in the middle is what Kia are going to charge you to jump up, in this case from a Kia Sportage 2 to a GT line. And the big number in green there is how much I think that specification is going to be worth in 3 years' time. So you pay Kia £3,000, in 3 years' time you come to sell it, that specification is actually going to be worth an additional £1,000 on top of whatever the vehicle price is, obviously. So we'll just scroll back up. We'll run through the Kia Sportage 2 specification so you understand what we're all looking at, and then we'll go from there. So it's a 1.6 turbocharged petrol manual. I've tried to get as like for like as I can, and I will explain that as I go along if I do change. You spend £26,745 as highlighted there. You get 17-inch alloys, an 8-inch display, LED daytime running lights, forward collision assistances, 4.2-inch supervision colour cluster display, LED headlamp, parking sensor, not sensors weirdly, auto temperature control, rain sensing aeroblade wiper, and leather trimmed steering wheel. Now, as I said before, if you want to jump up to the Sportage GT line, you have to pay Kia £3,000. And what do you get for your £3,000? Well, you go from a 17-inch alloy wheel to a 19-inch alloy wheel. Now, I'm going to give rationale behind some of the options here, so you can understand how we value it from a valuation perspective. Again, if you want to spend money or additional money to go from a 17-inch to a 19-inch alloy, that's entirely your decision, but a valuation perspective, we don't do things like that because it gets incredibly complex. There are a lot of alloy wheels out there, there's a lot of styles of alloy wheels, and for us to subjectively add a value to it compared to how somebody else thinks is not something we would assign a value to. So that's why it gets a 0. We effectively don't add value for any alloy wheels whatsoever. If it went from a 16-inch alloy wheel to a 20-inch alloy wheel, we don't add any value. The only way you get value is if you go from, let's say, a steel wheel to an alloy wheel, and then you went from an alloy wheel to something ridiculous like a carbon fiber wheel. So we're talking about the materials, not the actual size of the wheel. There's other implications involved with alloy wheels, such as SMR, or service maintenance and repair it's called, where it costs you more money over a longer term to run a vehicle with larger tyres, the rolling resistance, CO2 implications. It might affect your tax bracket that you run in. There's all sorts of things that go along with an alloy wheel, and not just a difference in the size that comes with it. So no additional value for alloy wheels whatsoever. 12.3-inch display with navigation. Yep, we're upgrading from the 8-inch display to the 12.3-inch. I've added £250 there. It might seem like a bit of a low number compared to what you imagine it would be worth, but what we think about is when we're forecasting is, okay, what happened 3 years ago? So what did a 12-inch display look like 3 years ago? Was it a 720p screen? Did it look outdated with the integration? The speed of the software that was in it? How did that all function? Okay, we're at this point today. What do we think this 12.3-inch version is going to be worth in 3 years' time? In 3 years' time, is there going to be a 4K screen in the car? Is it going to be one huge screen across the front of the dash on a facelift? So these are all little things that we have to think about when we're trying to forecast the price of something like a navigation system or a screen. So that's why it's £250, excuse me, and it's not like £1,000 for a big display, because that's going to change and develop over the next 3 years. Driver lumbar support, yeah, desirable option. If I could have it in my own car, I absolutely would. I've added a little bit of value, £50 again in 3 years' time. Rear privacy glass, £150. If you've seen my other videos, it's the same reasons as before. One is security implications, people obviously looking in your back window to see if there's anything that they can take. And the other one is things like direct sunlight, and if you've got a child in the back, and obviously in this particular vehicle it's catered more towards a family, so you're bound to have children in the back of the vehicle. So I've added a little bit of value there, £150 in 3 years' time. Forward collision assistance, it's already on the base vehicle, the Kia Sportage 2, so we don't add any additional value for things like that, and actually we don't add value for a lot of safety items, because the way we think as a valuation service is we don't want to charge or make the manufacturer think that they can charge a customer to be safer in their cars. So if, let's say, the base version didn't have any forward collision assistance and the GT line did, it would still get a £0 amount, because we're not going to go down the road of enticing a manufacturer to charge a customer for safety, because just morally wrong, quite frankly. Why would you do that? Then we move across to the 4.2-inch Super Vision colour display. Again, it's on the previous vehicle. You're not going to jump up in specification to get that, so there's no additional value. You're not going to get any benefit, so you might as well just stay with the base model. Quilted leather suede seats. I'd have to test this with Kia so that they could highlight the premium factor of a quilted leather suede seats. But I've added value to it, but obviously that number would potentially change depending on what I thought of the product when I actually saw it in person. Engine start-stop button with smart entry system. No additional value for things like that in 3 years' time. You're going to see that on almost every vehicle. So there's no value benefit to jumping up into a GT line just to have an engine start-stop button. Whether you really want it or not, it's entirely up to you. You might want to spend money to do that, but I wouldn't. Smart cruise control, obviously it does what it says in the tin. It's going to be adaptive cruise control, and I've added an additional value of £100 there for that. Obviously it's a desirable option. A lot of people use cruise control, but it's not going to be thousands and thousands of pounds for a cruise control. It's going to be just just a monetary amount so that we can recognise that it's a nice to have. A lane follow assist, I've added 0 for that, again just keeping you in lane. I personally find it quite intrusive, lane assist systems. I find that a lot of them don't work properly, and I've been in some fairly high-end premium products with this system, and they don't work anywhere near as well as the manufacturer would like you to believe. So I've added 0 value for that in this case. So like I said before, as we were touching on the initial bit of this specification, you pay Kia £3,000, and in 3 years' time, I think that particular specification that I can see at this moment in time is worth £1,050. So it's not terrible, but it's not as good as it could be. There's a lot of things in there that I would take out. There's a lot of things in there that I would add. Kia Sportage 3. So we're going to go from the GT line to the Kia Sportage 3. You're going to pay Kia an extra £1,200 to jump up from that specification, and actually, and weirdly, you're going to go down in alloy wheel size. But again, as I mentioned before with alloy wheels, I'm not going to punish based on size, so that gets a 0 as it would do any other time. It gets the 12.3 inch navigation display. Again, you get that on the previous specs, so you're not jumping up and paying additional money for a navigation display because you've already got it on the GT line, so why would you go to a Kia Sportage 3 just for that? There's no reason. Heated seats. Yeah, again, I've added additional value for heated seats. It's a very desirable option, seen in the more premium luxury arena of this sector. And I've added, basically, if you broke it down, it's £100 per seat. So I've given £200 there in total. Driver lumbar support, excuse me, no additional value there. Highway drive assist, which is actually the auto speed limit, so it's just going to read the speed limit on the road and adjust accordingly. Again, there's safety implications with things like that, especially if you're in adverse weather, and how the system might read speed signs compared to the weather conditions and speed up the wheels or slow them down, whatever it happens to be. So there's no additional value for things like that. 12.3 inch Supervision cluster display, again no additional value. Cloth and leather seats, so you actually go from quilted leather suede seats down to cloth and leather seats. Doesn't make much sense, and from a monetary value it does make sense to us. It doesn't get as much value, so I've taken that £500 on that off that I added for the previous spec. Heated steering wheel, yeah, I think it's more desirable in colder climates, especially here in the UK in the winter. It does get very, very nippy. So I've added additional value there, but it's not as much as you would imagine. It's only £50 extra. Smart cruise control, no, you get that on the previous specification. Engine start stop button, no, you get that on the previous specification. So if you spend £1,200 with Kia, actually in 3 years' time, you're only going to get £250 back. So it's not the best specification, that one. I would probably avoid the Kia Sportage 3 and I'd stick with the GT line. Now, if we go from the 3 to the Sportage 4, as you can see here, I've underlined and now circled in blue that you get a 48 volt mild hybrid technology with an automatic gearbox. And you're going to spend an extra £5,500 with Kia to have that privilege, plus the additional spec that they throw in there. So I'm not valuing the engine and the mild hybrid system today. This is just the specification. But we'll run through anyway. It gets the same 18-inch alloys, albeit it could be a different style. Ambient lights, I've added a bit of value. I know it is a bit more desirable these days, but again, ambient light technology is progressing and moving forward, and how it's integrated into vehicles is different, so I've only added £50 there in 3 years' time. Wireless charger, again, I've added a little bit of value there. It is a desirable option to have as standard. Harman Kardon premium speaker, £250. We don't add massive value again for things like this, so it could be Bose, could be Bang & Olufsen, it could be the Harman Kardon. We generally will just add £250 across the board for all of them. It doesn't matter how much they cost, and there is obviously quite a significant difference between a base version of a sound system and a premium sound system. But again, that technology is moving forward all the time. Manufacturers are doing deals with all sorts of other third parties, and we do add value to it, but it's not going to be a massive amount. If it's a £1,500 option to get a Harman Kardon premium stereo in, then you know you're not going to get anywhere near that amount back when you come to sell it. It's going to be a few £100s because it is desirable. It's got a name, but it's not what you think it would be worth. Blind spot view mirror. No, we don't add value for safety. Dual LED adaptive headlamps. Yeah, it does change the front visuals a little bit. If I just circle there and circle there is a slight change in how the exterior looks from a visual perspective. So I've added additional value there of £200. Front power adjustable seats, £50 there. Obviously a bit more desirable that you can adjust the seats. Hopefully it would be attached to each individual key fob for you and your partner. Panoramic sunroof, again, very desirable option, this one. I've added £500 for a panoramic roof in this particular case, and that's generally pretty standard unless it's monochromatic or a McLaren, panoramic roof or anything like that. But generally it's around £500 for a panoramic roof. Blind spot collision avoidance assist. No, not adding value for that. It's already on a previous specification. Surround view monitor. I've added £100. If it is what I think it is, where there's an actual camera in the screen and you can see around the entire vehicle, yes, I've used that before. It's a very desirable and interesting piece of technology. And if you spend your £5,500 with Kia, you're going to get £1,200 worth of that back. But again, that doesn't take into account the engine, the mild hybrid technology, the gearbox, etc. So that's just the specification. And then we come to the final specification, trying to keep this video under 20 minutes. Again, it gets the same, 48 volt mild hybrid DCT automatic. You spend an extra £2,000 and give that to Kia to jump up into the GT Line S. You go from the 18 inches to the 19-inch alloy wheels. Again, reasons before, we don't add value for alloy wheels. Suede upholstery, you get back your £500 now for getting a better interior upholstery. Ventilated seats, questionable in the UK market. Obviously in the hotter climates, absolutely it's almost a requirement to have ventilated seats in very extreme climates. But in the UK, it's a nice to have. But I've added £100 there for that value. Smart power tailgate, yeah, very desirable option these days to have an automatic tailgate. £150 there at 3 years. Blind spot view monitor, no, you got it on the previous spec, so there's no additional value. Michelin tyres, no, we're not going to give an additional value for what a manufacturer deems to be a better tyre or whatever affiliation they have with that tyre manufacturer, so there's no additional value. Driver's memory seat, a little bit of value there. Again, if it's attached to the key fob, really desirable. Two-tone roof, and obviously you can see that as I highlight there. Yeah, changes the visual exterior of the product, so we would add value to that because it is a nice differentiation between between models. Blind spot collision avoidance assistance, no additional value. Surround view monitor, no additional value. So you spend £2,000, give that to Kia, you'll get £950 back for the privilege. So for my money, again trying to keep this under 20 minutes, I would honestly stick with the base specification. It has everything you absolutely need in the vehicle, and I would just tick a few boxes for various things. If you can get a power tailgate on the base version, I would obviously tick that box. If you can do the interior a little bit better, I'd tick that box as well. But I wouldn't jump up through the various specifications because I think the Sportage 2 actually offers you a majority of what you're going to need, and you're going to get most of that money back, or I would hope you would get most of that money back when you come to sell the vehicle. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, I had to rattle it off really, really quick to try and keep it under 20 minutes. Obviously please like, please subscribe for more, please make suggestions if you want to see other brands and products that you want me to do this exact same exercise for, which is what I do with a manufacturer. But other than that, I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.